Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Deaths, back with another Kamihime project video. Sorry this took me some time to get out there, but at the same time, there really isn't that much info in this, so I'm jumping straight ahead to the heroic info for this event. But the current event is the Salvation Gang event, and it's got, to me, it's a weird event because of the robot and the music and all that. But it's a white, it's a white raid event, and you definitely want to try to grind as much of this as possible. There's also some other sad stuff that's going on too that's also worth it. Hopefully you've been doing your free pulls so you can get that 250 trade for the SSR ticket, because that one will give you an unowned SSR. There's also storyline grinding too that you may or may not want to do, especially since you might need the materials for when the new souls show up in about 3 months. But anyways, just going quick little thing over this. The element, the element that you get for all this stuff is light, of course. So dark has got the advantage, but use whatever you use whatever you can. Heroic, you have to have a dark team, or you're going to suffer a huge damage penalty, and you won't be able to debuff. And you're really going to need a dark team for this, if you've got them strong enough. But going over what you can get from the event to the Eidolon, she gives you 40% of light element attack and 10% defense, so there's that. She also buffs your light elemental attack even further when you summon her, so. And a lesser known thing is that light elemental buffs actually do affect your debuff rate. So if it changes, if it's an elemental attack or an elemental resistance change, it will affect debuff rates. So keep that in mind. But the weapon itself, it's it gives you large assault and medium defender, so it's like just barely better than the hammers for white ultimates. So if you're trying to get those type of weapons, then this event weapon is better. But other than that, there's not too much I can really say about this event. But and that's the thing, it's just weird how JP Wiki hasn't been really updating the info, so I'm not even going to bother showing it. The other thing I do have to mention though is that you need water to do the mission where you have to solo Ragnarok, and then Ragnarok Plus is the typical stuff, and just solo it however you can. Expert, you need Kamihime only, so don't put any SR or SSR in your entire team, including sub slots. Now, getting into the heroic fight, and be quite honest, I'm not exactly sure where all this info is coming from, but it helps, because again, there's a guy that's on my Union Discord that's been posting this type of stuff. But the boss has about 200 million HP, but he will revive, so you have to beat him twice, so it's essentially like 400 million. It's got 3 orbs before you get nuked, and then on top of that too, the whole thing with the fortitude, you cannot use zombie. I don't know if you can use curse though, but quite frankly, I know my dark team isn't all that great, so I'm probably not even going to try this fight. But you got to keep in mind that when you get nuked, you're getting about 5 to 9,000 damage. But for some weird reason, it seems like he damages himself too. And then on top of that, there's a point where he'll buff you and himself. So this whole thing's just weird. Like, the whole event is weird, even the fight itself. But there's definitely some triggers to watch out for, but they won't deal with the orbs. So you can get hit with a trigger and then eventually get hit with the full orb nuke as well. So be careful of that. You will get nuked when he revives, so have some protection for that. And it's a very high nuke on it as well. But the turn after, you have 12 turns to take out the last remaining bit of his HP. So yeah, that second half of the fight, you're on a time limit, so keep that in mind. But if you pass that turn limit, then you're going to start getting hit with that so-called death trigger, where you're pretty much taking 100,000 damage every turn that you cannot protect against. So, yeah. Just remember, you have all the time in the world before he revives. So, once he does, you gotta hurry fast. So, if you're using any add-ons like North Star, South Star, Bayako, stuff like that, save them for when he revives. Also, you do want to start erasing debuffs that get put on you as well, because apparently he does a few of those as well, and that's kind of tricky to deal with. Try to remove some buffs off him, but even this doesn't give me too much info, so that's why I'm kind of being a little bit vague about it. But the main thing they're suggesting is like damage type setups. So you do want some healing if you can, just to stay alive, and maybe a little bit of protection. But other than that, you're going damage. So they're suggesting a lot of characters that's pretty hard to get your hands on though, because either they're recent or they're limited. So keep that in mind. But the dark version of Set, she's recent, so good chance you probably won't have her. Same thing with Aresh Kegel. They're suggesting Nyarlathotep, and of course because she's got that wound debuff, along with some other stuff as well that makes the fight a little bit easier. She's limited, so you might not have her. Then there's Nefertim. She's also a pretty good healer that can also protect you, so probably the second best healer option. Thanatos is always very strong. Pluto, if you have awakened her, is pretty strong. They suggest Nagisa, who's the fire character from the Baldur's Sky banner. If you have either one of them, use them, because Nagisa lands normal attack resistance regardless of what you're fighting for some reason, and it stays on the entire fight. That armor break stays on the entire fight. So she's one of the few cases where you can bypass the debuff thing, but remember that she's going to die, so have a backup. But the other Baldur's Sky Hime, I'm suggesting because of the fact that she has some pretty good protection, but she gives you a very strong stinger buff, and that can help out a lot. But the dark version of Bao, she's a new one as well. She's a limited character. You may or may not have her, so there's that as well. And then there's also some ability damage characters too. That's pretty good. Take Minikata is also a very good one too, and she's kind of old in the game, but she's another one that stinger buffs as well, and it's a stackable one, so it will go with your other stinger buffs. I just pulled the dark version of Xiaotang. She's also recent, but she nukes a lot, especially if you activate her first ability, she'll start nuking every turn, on top of being able to use her abilities as well. So there's that, but keep in mind if it's activated, you can't burst with her. But the main thing is just damage, damage, damage. Just go for damage. I also see a lack of two other characters I could suggest as well, but only if you have them awakened. Nephthys, who does some pretty solid bursts and all that too, but a decent amount of normal attack combo rate as well if you use her properly. And then Chernobog. Those two are very, very strong when awakened. Chernobog can do a crap ton of normal attack damage. And if you're using Nagisa, you're probably going to want Chernobog as well. But there's that. Osiris is another healer as well, and she'll give you burst gauge as well. I don't see her suggested, but she's useful for this. Maybe Dark Sevarog, because she's got some decent buffing and also builds up your burst gauge too. So that goes pretty well if you're using Yorimitsu. But Paracelsus is a recommended soul as well, and then Caspar. Caspar is underrated in this game, honestly, because she has a buff that is just very, very strong. Or you can make her a healer if you want, but she comes with a lot of debuffing too, so she can play multiple roles and just fill all those slots, so you can just do a lot more flexibility with your teams. Parashurama is another good soul to use as well. But you may or may not be able to get Curse on the boss and prevent him from reviving. I'm not sure if that works. I know Zombie is definitely immune. There is an Kamihime that can put Zombie up. It is immune. But If there's a source where you can put curse on him from a dark character or a dark add-on, then I would suggest trying it and seeing if that works. But your main thing is just to try and have a little bit of healing, a little bit of damage cut, but mostly like characters that can deal out damage for your team. Especially since when it comes to free to play for dark element, it's not that easy to pull up damage. If you don't have a Python weapon from like old raid events, or I think it's an Advent actually, not a raid event, but if you don't have a Python weapon from an old Advent, you don't have any vigor most likely. Vigor is very, very good. And your only other fillers would be either Rebellion if you happen to pull it, or maybe you can try Stinger RNG with weapons. Other than that, you would have to probably clear Dark Malicious and get some weapons from that before you even try to attempt this. So, free to play is going to have some trouble with this fight if you're not built up. And a lot of these characters that they're suggesting is limited too, but there's ways around it. But again, the weapon grid is going to hold you back the most because the characters are pretty nice. The weapons is rough for dark element until again a few months from now, because that's when we start getting some better stuff. But anyways, that's all for this. Again, sorry it's short and it's just basically one screen for the whole time because the issue with this is the fact that the wiki has not been giving that much info on these events, and it doesn't help. So I'm wondering if there's any other sources that posted the info and all that too, because I used to be able to do videos where it's like, okay, enemies do this damage and these attacks on these difficulties. They got kind of lazy on it, I guess, or maybe they're just not bothering because you can end up just bum rushing through the stuff. If you're a veteran player trying to take on heroic, you could easily just trash the entire event, and heroic is the only thing that will flip a fight against you. So that's the thing. But anyways, that's all for this. Again, get the add-on if you feel like you need a lot more elemental attack for your white team, because you could set her as a main and get some and then buff for more, or maybe you got other elemental attacks and she'll still be decent as a sub add-on. But there's also the weapon too. The weapon is just barely better than the hammer from Ultimate Raid, but again, you may or may not need it. My suggestion is to actually go for more of the Guardian Raid stuff, because all three Guardian Raid weapons from Haggith work together pretty well. But other than that, basically just try to do your best on this event and try to grind as much as possible, because we got some stuff on the way and you may want to overgrind, because that's going to be pretty rough to unlock, and you do want to build up on all that type of stuff. So that's something to know. But anyways, that's all for this. More will come soon. If I happen to clear this, then I'll have a video up of the heroic, but no promises, because White Malicious is already kicking the crap out of me. Like, I can deal a decent amount of damage, but I'll still die in 15 turns in the White Malicious. That's just how rough dark free-to-play is. But again, I'll have a heroic video up if I happen to clear it. But otherwise, that's all for now, guys. Take care.